This is a video I did of a cycle in mid-February going up through Glen Kendrum and then round and back through Glen Ogle. It's a good route. It's one I would probably only do after at least a few days of dry weather, because there's a river crossing that you'll see later on that if you were to do it after heavy rain you'd have real trouble getting over the river. Anyway, onwards. So this first part is along the cycleway that goes from Strathire over to Killin. We do peel off the main route just a wee bit further along here, as you'll see. So it's just round here that we peel off the main route. The other route goes straight on, but we peel off to the left. It actually is going on to the railway track, or the old railway line, which most of the route actually does follow, especially further up. But it must have been land disputes or something, and this part wasn't taken as part of that Sustrans route. It's strange. It's obviously been, as I say, a land dispute, but anyway, you can still go through this way on a bike. I've never had anybody stop me, but obviously they just didn't want it made as the official route. There's a wee bit of work getting done here, some kind of tree cutting or whatever.
Alright, squeeze past it. Okay, squeeze past. Sorry. Hey, well, cheers, mate. Thank you.
I believe at this bit we're passing an old station. I can't find what the station was called, whether this was the original Balquhidder station, I'm not too sure. I'd need to look that up. But yeah, some railway paraphernalia all the way along, you know, the wee bridges. But this is just after that, this is where you turn off of the track, and we're basically going up to join the Glen Kendrum track, just up here and on your left. At this point in the track, it's fairly steady climbing, quite easy. It's not as steep at this point, and that's still to come a bit further on. So as you can see at this point, I put the drone up, gave you a better view of the track going up to the crags at the far end of the mountain there. I'm not sure how to pronounce, but yeah, it's a great track leading all the way up to the crag there. Just underneath the crag is where the track gets a lot steeper. And on a normal bike you'll probably be pushing, especially in the kind of wintry conditions, that kind of awaited me a bit further up. But in a e-bike, no problem at all. A bit of effort obviously, but very doable. Managed to cycle the whole thing, which is great. Guys, off the path. a lot steeper. And as I say, with the e-bike, very doable. I think the e-bike also really helps you when you're on the kind of snowy, icy stuff that I eventually get to. As I say, I can't think of anything bad to say about e-bikes. They are the business. As you can see, a wee bit further up now, and the track is getting a lot more icy, and it has some snow still sitting on it at this point. A wee bit further up again, obviously it gets a wee bit more snowy, but nothing too bad. Again, just all pretty cyclable. Time to put the drone up again, just to give you a view of the kind of top end of Glen Kendrum. You can see the track snaking its way up. There wasn't an awful lot further to go at this point. What you can see there is basically the top of the Beelach between the two hills, and then eventually a swing round and look back over the track. Here we go. And that's looking back down where we've came up from, and you can just make out the track there. Going back down to basically Balquhidder, which is off to the right. It's quite a barren area, but you know, it's stunning really. And I really enjoy doing it in these kind of conditions. And then for 5 minutes, if even 5 minutes only, the sun popped out. You can actually see it just starting to recede on the hill. You get, like I say, just a few minutes of that sunlight. I thought I'd try and capture it while I could. It was quite windy up there, so I was quite aware of the drone. I didn't want to lose it. And after we had kind of mucked about, it was time to get to the top and then make my way down the other side, basically on the Killin side if you like. This was me just about at the summit. Quite glad to now be thinking about heading downhill. That said, the downhill was pretty rough and obviously icy and snowy, so I couldn't belt down it as fast as I would normally do. Still great fun though. Took a bit of a pounding on the wrists and the shoulders, but that's normal. So as I came down here, I decided I would put up the wee drone, because I thought this might capture it a wee bit better than the GoPro. So time to pull over and put the wee drone up, the wee Neo. Let's watch a wee bit of that footage now. As you can see, when I put the Neo up, I've got to go quite slow, because if I do go any faster, the wee thing can lose you. But that said, it was icy and snowy, so I'm going a bit slower than normal anyway. Enjoy. after a very jarring downhill. I'm just coming down to where the ford is over the river, and this was a bit I was talking about earlier on, where I said that if you do this route and it's been heavy rain or any rain I would imagine just prior to it, then this river crossing could pose a problem. So keep that in mind if you are going to do this route. It's a great route, but maybe just try and do it after a few minutes.
This is the river crossing that I was worried about, but I was pretty sure it would be okay to do, and it is. There we go. Roads are good.
So just coming down onto the old Glen Kendrum part of the railway, and the bridge over the river here. Had a wee stop and a wee nosy around.
Calves are screaming a bit.
So we follow this part of the old railway line, and you can see there's lots of forestry stuff going on at the moment. But this railway line now will take us up to the head of Glen Ogle. You could turn off and go down to Killen if you wanted, but I was just going back up, as I said, to the head of Glen Ogle, and then it was basically downhill most of the way past the the viaducts in Glen Ogle, or over the viaducts rather, in Glen Ogle, and down to back to where we started. It's obviously, we are climbing up to the head of Glen Ogle, but it's because it's an old railway line, it's a very gradual climb, you don't really feel it. So yeah, good. from this point on it's mostly downhill over the viaducts back to Balquhidder area. Stopped here and stuck the drone up for a few minutes. It was really quite windy and I didn't really get as good footage as I was after. It's more down to my skills than anything else, but it does kind of let you see the Glen Ogle from the air, albeit not very well captured by me at this point. I was a wee bit nervous about the thing in the wind. point, we're still on the old railway line, but this is where we turn down on the Sustrans route onto the zigzags, which are great fun going down, not so much fun coming up. But if we had went straight on up there, that would have taken us onto the route that we started on. Remember, I turned off onto the old railway line, so that would have went straight onto that. You can go back that way, but this time obviously I was just want to mix it up a wee bit and come back on the Sustrans route. So this is the official route, and going down these zigzags is just, as I said, it's great fun. You can get quite a speed up, obviously, especially in the summer. You've got to watch out for motorcyclists and walkers, but the path was empty and it was able to let it roll a wee bit faster. The bends are so tight that you end up slamming the brakes on. You've got to be careful. But yeah, great fun. Had a quick stop at this bridge that was built for the Sustrans cycle way. Cracking structure actually, pretty high up over the river below. Brilliant that they build these things for cyclists and walkers. Thank you, Sustrans. I have noticed signs of beaver in this area, so if you're cycling through it, just check out. There's some trees that have definitely been felled by beavers. Not that one that we just passed, but never really noticed it this time. I wasn't really looking, but in the past I have seen definite signs of beaver in this area.
Hiya. Hi buddy. Hi.